Thank you for joining us today at VaporWorx for the next installment of our over-the-shoulder technical series, where today we're going to do a deep dive on this fuel module. This is a Gen 5 Camaro ZL1 AC Delco MU2101 fuel module. Bang for the buck, one of the best fuel modules you can buy. 650 horsepower supercharged, 750 horsepower naturally aspirated capable. Fully filtered, safety devices, and by far the best low fuel handling capability of any pump on the market today, OEM or aftermarket. So without further ado, let's just jump in. This is the hat. Standard interface to most all modern OEM tanks. Even my neighbor's Honda Goldwing has the same tank interface. Standard 3/8 quick connect. GM specific electrical plug. So even though the interface is the same amongst manufacturers, these connections are different. Hat angle can be different, but the interface is the same. This particular one also comes with a 40 ohms full, 250 ohms empty fuel level sensor. It does not need to be used, so we're just going to take it out so you can get a little bit better look at it. So we're just disconnect the wire there. We're going to disconnect the wires under the hat. We're going to do both the fuel level sensor and the pump plug. So to remove, all you do is just press these two little tabs in. You'll hear it snap. And just lift it out. Now we have these small little white wires. These are anti-static wires or grounding wires so that you don't build up a static charge. Just press a little tab and pull it out. You want there not to be a static charge buildup when you take this out of the tank, or else you can get a spark, and sparks can be bad. So we want to make sure we put these back in place when we reassemble the fuel module. So we're taking this one out. That's next to the pressure regulator. Now what this pressure regulator is, it's not used in the traditional sense. It is used as a safety overpressure regulator. When you go key off on a hot day, heat soak from the engine will cause the fuel in the fuel rails to go up. Not uncommon for it to go over 200 psi. That's not good from a safety standpoint, but from a practical standpoint, once the fuel pressure gets over 100 psi, the injectors stop working. The car won't start. This being 85 psi keeps the fuel pressure under 100, but is high enough so it stays out of the normal operating range of the pump. Or excuse me, the normal operating range of the commanded fuel pressure. Commanded fuel pressure on something like this is typically like 65 psi. So you don't have two pressure regulation systems overlapping. So we've got those out. We got one more set of wires to disconnect underneath here. And then we can start taking this apart. Now this has down rods and springs to be able to accommodate slight differences in mounting height. 6.5 inches is the sweet spot for this. But one of the big advantages of a pump like this is that it has jet pumps on the bottom. What jet pumps are, we'll have a better look at it, but there's basically high pressure fuel shooting through nozzles in multiple locations underneath here. That high pressure fuel creates suction, pulls into this lower reservoir, so that it's always overflowing with fuel. Even if there's like an 1/8 inch of fuel here on the bottom of the tank, it still overflows. It'll literally suck the tank dry before you run out of fuel. So if you run out of gas, don't sit there and turn the key, hoping it's going to start. You're just going to do pump damage. This will literally suck the pump dry. Excuse me, suck the tank dry. So let's get it apart. Get a look on the inside. So we've got to put in these little tools to help hold the tabs away so that the lower reservoir can be separated. Now, there's a small little hose right here. This small hose is what powers the jet venturi pumps. We're going to have to cut that out of the way to show you what's going on in here. And it just comes up. So that little hose, which comes out the top of the main electric pump, goes in here, feeds the jet pumps. So what does the jet pump look like? Looks like this. Fuel, high pressure fuel from the hose comes into here. These are nozzles. Tiny little hole right there. Tiny little hole right there. So this high pressure stream of fuel is shooting through a tapered nozzle in here. And when it does that, it creates suction. It's pulling fuel all from the perimeter area around the assembly, all through here, sucking it and shoving it through the hole. Same thing with the jet, the pickup point that's here. It's picking it up, shoving it through the hole, going up through these tubes. Goes up through these tubes, overflows into the bucket. The secondary one that's on this side, same thing. Flowing up, overflowing into the tube. So even if there's, again, just a small amount of fuel, it's always overflowing. The safety overpressure valve is fed through this opening here, which is on the bottom of the fuel filter assembly. Here. So if this ever needs to open, it just blows back into the fuel module reservoir. There's actually an opening that's back down in there you can't see. So let's take this apart real quick. One, two, and three. Pump comes out. And now you can see the pump. This whole pump assembly is made by a company called Kafis. They make very, very nice parts, but you can see this is different than, say, a standard 450 or 525 liter per hour Walbro or TI automotive pump. The form factor such here and at the bottom is not the same, so you're not going to be able to put a 450 liter per hour pump or 525. But this pump is already the equivalent of a 450 liter per hour pump. There are just losses from this because you've got to power the jet pumps. So it's not going to be any advantage to try to put a 450 liter per hour pump in here. But this is a very nice sealing design. This is not a simple O-ring. It's a multi-point contact. So you get excellent sealing. There's a little spacer just to hold it up off the bottom so it makes sure that it gets fully into the seated section inside of the filter area. And there's a barb here. So this is the other part that's difficult to replicate, is this barb. Difficult to replicate and integrate back into the fuel module the right way. So we'll set that off to the side. We'll talk a little bit more about this. So what happens is as fuel comes up here, the fuel pump actually seats in here, comes up and across and then back down again. There's a check valve. So again, fuel comes up, there's a check valve. There's the little check valve. It drops in. There's a plastic cover. And then this stainless steel retainer plate holds everything in place. Fuel comes up, down, comes down this way. It then enters the filter. Up, across, down, enters the outer section of the filter, through the pleats, through the bore, and comes out through here. So this then goes to the hat. Comes up this way, comes out of your connection. So this is an OE quality filter. It's the only filter that's in the car. No need for an external filter. Highly suggested not to use an external filter. Many external filters aftermarket have check valves in them. If it has a check valve, the fuel line pressure is just going to go up with no place for the fuel to go. It won't have access to the safety overpressure regulator. Therefore, the pressure goes up in the line. Once it goes over 100 psi, the injector stops working. So there's no need for an external filter. It's just redundant. This normally goes on here like that. Nice laser welded assembly. This belly band keeps the shape of this system intact so that the filter doesn't become disconnected or dislodged, allowing contaminated fuel to go through. So, it's not quite complete like it was, but these devices, these systems, are far more advanced than anything that's available in the aftermarket. It's the only one that's going to literally suck the tank dry before you run out of fuel. For the price point of about $205 from Rock Auto, they're the deal of the century. Put it onto a VaporWorx PWM system to control the speed of the pump, just like the OEMs do. You've got yourself a really good system. By far the most popular pump that we support by about a factor of 5 or 6. So very good pump, well known, readily available. Any questions? Please feel free to ask in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to help. Thank you.